Christine, I think we're having a little trouble hearing you. So can we check your audio there for a minute? While you're doing that, let me welcome everyone to today's COVID 313 Coalition for Families and Students. I'm Rajeshri Bhatia. I'm with the Grand Valley State University Charter School office. And my co-host Christine was fixing her audio. Christine, can we see if it's back on yet? Can't hear you yet. Want to try? Okay. While she's getting that fixed, we will welcome you and let you know that we are excited to have you here today. We are going to be translating the town hall into Spanish and ASL. So we want to give folks time to get on the right line and get comfortable. Rita, could you please give us details on how to listen to the Spanish interpretation?
Para ver esta transmisión en español, vaya a la página de Facebook de Detroit Hispanic Corporation y también puede encontrar el enlace en los comentarios de esta transmisión.
Thank you. Could we please have the ASL interpreter share the instructions for ASL? Thank you so much. Christine, are you back on yet? It looks like you're connecting to audio, so I'll give you a second to get yourself connected. You were just fine a moment ago. We were chatting. Okay, I'll go on with the next part and then we'll try you again in a second. We want to hear from you, so please chat your comments or share them, chat your comments or questions on Facebook. To get us started, before we start in the comments, let us know, where are you joining us from? How did you hear about today's town hall? What topic are you most looking forward to hearing about? Christine, it sounds like you're back.
I am. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, it all went silent.
Well, it's all.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rajeshri, for filling in while I was having sound trouble. Hashtag 2021. So if you have questions, please put them in the Facebook chat. And right now, if you could let us know what you're excited to hear about on our town hall today. But truly, this is, you know, we enter this town hall, I think, always hopeful, always in I think a joyous spirit. But we would be remiss if we did not start this program to honor the life of Dante Wright, who was murdered by police in Minnesota this week. So I'd like us to take 1 minute of silence right now to honor his life. Dante was a son and a cousin, but he was also a father of a 2-year-old son. If you'd like to support Dante's son, you can donate items and money to Dante's girlfriend through the Instagram link provided on the screen. In addition, Dante's family has created a GoFundMe account. This is also listed on the screen right now. This money will go towards Dante's family's effort to heal, to support their grandson, and continue to fight for justice for Dante and all that have come before him. And it breaks my heart to say probably those that will come after, if we do not lean in to changing the way that our society is set up and do the hard work that it is going to take to make this not normal. Finally, Detroit Will Breathe will be hosting a rally on Saturday at Clark Park at 4 p.m. for Dante. If you'd like to attend, we encourage you to do it safely, given the spike in COVID cases. And that spike is very real. So we will ask you to keep your distance, wear your mask, and continue to fight for Black lives. We can't say enough in this life and in our actions, Black lives matter. This program commits to continuing to contribute to justice for Black lives today and in every program. Rajeshri?
Thank you, Christine, for sharing that important message and that important reminder for all of us. Again, I'm Rajeshri. I am with the Grand Valley State University Charter Schools office. I work directly with charter schools across the state and in Detroit. And I'm happy to be here week after week to share this information with you. Again, as a reminder, we are translating the town hall to Spanish and ASL. So we want to give folks the right time to get on the right line and get comfortable. Rita, could you please share the information to connect to the Spanish translation?
Para ver esta transmisión en español, vayan a la página de Facebook de Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation y también pueden encontrar el enlace en los comentarios de esta transmisión.
Thank you. Could we please get the ASL instructions as well? Thank you. Welcome to all of our guests. As a reminder, because we are translating using it to ASL, we do ask that all of our presenters stay with their cameras and microphones off until you're presenting, and that you speak slowly and clearly so that all of our translators can be assured of getting all of your words translated correctly. We appreciate your help on that. And as the moderators, Christine and I will remind you of those things. So please, as we said, we ask that you keep your cameras and microphones off. Our timekeeper, Terry, will let you know if we're getting ahead or behind on time. And so we are here to support you. Thank you so much. Today we have a special guest joining us. We have a special guest joining us from the historic Masjid Wali Muhammad. We would like to welcome Imam Munir Hanifa to join us. Munir, Ramadan Mubarak. Welcome.
Ramadan Mubarak. Thank you. Thank you so much. I wanted to first start off, I was asked to come on and share some brief words about the month of Ramadan, which is the month that all of the Muslims around the world are observing right now. It's the month in which Muslims, the first significance, it is the month in which Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or peace and blessings be upon him, was first given the Quran, the message from God. So we commemorate this glorious month for us by fasting, because it's an honorable month. And we fast from food and drink and intimacy, lawful intimacy with our spouses during the daylight hours, in order that we may gain self-restraint and a spirit of reflectfulness and appreciation for the blessings that God has given us. So what that restraint does is because we are refraining from those things that are normally lawful, and for most of us are God blesses us with on a day-to-day basis with little to no effort, it allows us to show more appreciation and to feel and be in tune with the appreciation of all the blessings that we get. And then in return, we also, in that mode of reflectfulness, we're able to pay more attention to those who are in less need, because we know the way society works now. We spend a lot of our time, most of our time throughout our day, securing those basic needs, which is food, clothing, and shelter. We all work 8 to 12 hours a day, unfortunately, even though we're at home. Many of us are still working from home. Some of us are working out in the community, and that consumes our time and our hearts and our minds. So what Ramadan does is it allows us to kind of press pause on that mentally and spiritually so that we can reflect on the blessings that we have. And in turn, we can be more effective mentally and spiritually on addressing the needs of those who are less fortunate than us. It allows us to redirect our attention to others, and also redirect our attention to building up our spiritual condition. So with that, just to mention a few brief reflections on the time that we have here. We know, drawing our attention to some of the hardships that some of us are going through because of the pandemic. Many of us are experiencing stress and anxiety. Many of us are experiencing the fact that we're isolated. Some of us are going through financial troubles because we have maybe lost a job or things of that nature. So we want to make sure that we're doing the things that we can for our neighbors and checking in on them, because many of us are doing well during the pandemic. So some of us are able to work from home. Some of us are saving extra money. Some of us have family at home that we are able to enjoy. Maybe sometimes our family may get on our nerves, but we have to appreciate them as well, because it's good to have those connections. So we want to make sure that we're connecting with those our neighbors who may be in need. We want to make sure that we're checking on the children up and down the street who may be having a hard time because they're missing meals, or their parents may not be home with them. So those things we want to bring to our attention and make sure that we are fully engaging our community, and just use this time to remind ourselves to step outside of our own condition and help others. And also to make sure that we understand that though many of us are going through trials, that God is merciful, and and everything is in His control and in His plan. So we are thankful that we know that God will eventually carry us through this, and things will be okay. I don't have a long presentation, but I want to close with a prayer that I think that is beneficial for all of us. And that is, there is none worthy of worship except for God, the creator of the heavens and the earth, the clement, the bountiful. Glory be to God alone, Lord of the magnificent throne. Praise be to God, Lord of all the worlds. I beg of thee thy causes of obtaining thy mercy, and the purposes of securing thy pardon. I pray and I beg of thee the spoil from every righteous deed, and the safety from every sin or wrongdoing that I commit. O God, O Lord, leave no sin or wrongdoing of mine unforgiven, no anxiety unrelieved, and no need of mine wherewith you are pleased unfulfilled. O Lord, thou art the most merciful of those who show mercy. And with that, from today, as your representative of the Muslim community of Detroit, and on behalf of Imam Tawheed Rashad, the resident Imam at Historic Masjid Wali Muhammad, and the believers at Masjid Wali Muhammad, I want to wish everyone a blessed and Ramadan, and our prayers are with everyone. So peace and blessings be upon all. And thank you for having me on this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your sharing so much and reminding us of those very important lessons that we stop and pay special attention to during Ramadan. Thank you. So we have a very exciting show for you today. We have a number of experts to share expertise and knowledge in a variety of areas, and we're here to answer your questions. So as a reminder, please use the chat on Facebook to ask your questions. There will be a question and answer segment after each segment. And if we can't answer your question today, don't worry. We're committed to getting you the answers, and we will post them at onedetroitpbs.org. So feel free to ask us questions. No questions too hard. For our experts, as a reminder again, please remember to speak slowly for our translators, and to assure that our ASL translators are able to appropriately reach our audience, we ask that you turn off your camera and stay on mute when you are not speaking or it's not your segment. And if anyone is running over time, no worries. Between Christina and I and our wonderful timekeeper, Terry Whitfield, we will let you know so that you know when it's time to wrap up. We appreciate all of you being here. So today we're going to welcome guests from the Detroit Health Department, from schools, and some local physicians we'll discuss the surge of COVID cases in the city, as well as what's going on with the J&J vaccine. To start us off, I'd like to invite Cosecha Detroit to give us a presentation about how we can support the immigrant community in Michigan. Cosecha, take it away.
Hola, buenas. Yo soy Sergio. Muchas gracias por tenernos acá. Este 1 de mayo, la comunidad indocumentada se va a Washington, D.C. para exigir papeles sí, migajas no.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Sergio. Gracias por tenerme aquí el día de hoy. El 1 de mayo, el movimiento Cosecha. I apologize. I'm repeating exactly what you said in Spanish. I am so sorry. Good afternoon. My name is Sergio, and thank you for having me here today. May 1st, Movimiento Cosecha will be going to Washington, D.C. to request documents for undocumented community.
Movimiento Cosecha les invita a participar en una movilización nacional en el capital del país para luchar por lo que por tantos años le ha faltado a la comunidad, ¿no? La protección permanente, la dignidad y el respeto para todos los inmigrantes indocumentados de este país.
Movimiento Cosecha is creating a national mobilization in Washington, D.C. to secure what has been denied to our immigrant community, which is legal protection. Sergio, can you repeat the other items that you said?
Sí, dignidad y respeto para todos los 11 millones de indocumentados.
Dignity and respect for 11 million undocumented individuals.
Se lo paso a Fabi.
Pido una disculpa, mis audífonos no me funcionaron.
I apologize, my headphones are not working. Se escucha bien.
Gracias. Hola, mi nombre es Fabiola Venegas, yo soy parte del movimiento Cosecha. En enero pasado, el Partido Demócrata, que siempre ha hecho promesas a la comunidad emigrante.
Fabiola, un momentito. Good afternoon. My name is Fabiola Venegas, and I am part of Movimiento Cosecha. ¿Puede continuar después de su nombre, por favor?
Ok, en enero pasado, el Partido Demócrata, que siempre ha hecho promesas a la comunidad inmigrante, tomó el control del Congreso y de la presidencia.
In January, I apologize. Last January, the Democratic Party took over Congress and gave promises to the immigrant community.
Sin embargo, cada día que pasa seguimos esperando algún alivio del gobierno.
However, every day that goes by, we continue to wait for some relief from the government.
Biden ha firmado su gran ley de alivio al estímulo del COVID, pero excluye a los millones de trabajadores esenciales,
Biden
los inmigrantes.
has signed the COVID stimulus package, but it excludes essential workers, the immigrants,
quienes fueron obligados a arriesgar sus vidas para mantener la economía durante esta pandemia. Biden prometió detener la deportación y pasar una reforma migratoria, pero continúan las deportaciones en nuestras comunidades.
Fabiola, la voy a detener un momento. Biden dijo que habían los inmigrantes puesto en peligro sus vidas, ¿correcto?
Sí,
Okay.
dice que nosotros fuimos excluidos del fondo de alivio.
Immigrants were excluded from the relief package, and those immigrants also risked their lives completing essential jobs.
Los cuales incluyen a millones de trabajadores esenciales de este país, quienes somos emigrantes.
And that package excludes the millions of essential workers, the immigrants.
Los cuales también fueron obligados a arriesgar sus vidas para mantener la economía durante toda esta pandemia.
Immigrants also risked their lives to support the economy during the pandemic.
Trabajando en tierras, trabajando en fábricas, trabajando en restaurantes, trabajando en diferentes lugares, arriesgando nuestras vidas para que llegara el sustento a todas las familias.
Working the land, working industries, and working in factories, restaurants, to ensure that everyone had the food on their table and the necessities met.
Para mantener la economía durante toda esta pandemia.
And supported the economy during the pandemic.
Biden prometió detener las deportaciones y pasar una reforma migratoria.
Biden promised to stop the deportations and approve an immigrant reform.
Pero continúan las deportaciones.
But the deportations continue.
Y los mismos demócratas ya están diciendo que será demasiado difícil pasar una ley para los 11 millones de emigrantes.
And the same Democrats are saying that it will be hard to pass a law for the 11 million immigrants.
Se lo paso de regreso a Sergio.
We're going back to Sergio.
A María.
Oh, perdona, María.
We're going with María.
Hola, yo soy María Castellanos, represento aquí a los inmigrantes de Cosecha, Detroit. Les estoy mostrando este papel.
María, le interrumpo un poquito para traducir su
Sí,
nombre.
está bien.
Hi, my name is María Castellanos, and I am representing immigrants here with Cosecha, and I show you this paper.
Ok, entonces, yo como persona, estamos hartas de las falsas promesas, las multimillonarias deportaciones desde Obama. Entonces, como Cosecha Detroit, nos estamos preparando para ir a Washington, D.C. Está bien.
I personally am done with the false promises and the millions of deportations.
Estamos hartos de que los políticos a la hora de votar pidan nuestros votos de nuestros hijos, familiares que ya son americanos, nos hacen muchas promesas y a la hora son falsas promesas que no nos cumplen.
We are done with politicians asking for the votes from our family members and children who are U.S. citizens, and they continue with false promises.
Ahora estamos unidos, todos los trabajadores esenciales, inmigrantes y no inmigrantes, todos los que estuvimos y estamos trabajando durante esta pandemia, y nos vamos a unir a la lucha.
All essential workers, we are all united in this fight.
Únete a nosotros para pedir dignidad, protección para todos los inmigrantes que vivimos aquí en Estados Unidos, no nomás en Detroit, Michigan. Estados Unidos, nos juntamos todos, Cosecha Detroit. Hay varias organizaciones que vamos a ir a Washington este 1 de mayo. Búscanos en el Face, en esta página que estoy poniendo, y seguimos en la lucha. Necesitamos papeles permanentes. Gracias.
All of us immigrants, not just in Detroit, but across the U.S., are uniting together to request, to ask for dignity and protection for everyone, for all of the immigrants. This May 1st, you can follow the information that is on the flyer on our social media.
Para finalizar, todo comienza el 1 de mayo en Washington, D.C.
To finalize, everything begins on May 1st in Washington, D.C.
Estaremos presentes para marcar el final de los primeros 100 días de la administración de Biden y mostrar que ya no nos quedaremos al margen, complacientes con las falsas promesas.
We will be there to finalize the first 100 days of the Biden administration to let them know that ¿qué es lo que continúa, Sergio?
Que no nos quedaremos al margen complacientes con falsas promesas.
We will not be in the margin with false promises.
Exigimos lo que nos merecemos, que es la protección permanente para todos los 11 millones.
We ask for permanent protection for all the immigrants.
Muchas gracias por tenernos acá.
Thank you for having us today.
Gracias a todos.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for that very important information. And if I could ask, if you guys could drop in the chat or email us other ways in which we can be supportive. If we can't go to DC, what are things that we can do to support your efforts? Thank you all so much for being here and sharing this really important information with us. We're now going to move on to another really important topic. We're really excited to have the health department back with us today. So Denise Fair, who is the director of the health department. And so we feel really lucky that we get the leadership of the health department here. And is Hannah going to be talking with you, Denise, answering questions?
Yes.
Awesome.
Hannah
So
should be here. There she is. Good.
There she is. Yeah. So Hannah, welcome back. We've missed you. She was becoming a regular on our town hall. And we feel very lucky to have both you and Denise with us today. So did you want to give any opening remarks? And then I have some questions.
So I think what we'd like to do, we have a full presentation. And so if you allow us to
Great.
share our screen, what we're going to do, and once again, my name is Denise Fair. I'm the Chief Public Health Officer for the Detroit Health Department. And so we're going to go through some slides today to give you an update on where we are. And Hannah, you can go to the next slide for me if you will, and then give you some education. We really feel it is so important that you arm yourself with knowledge so that you can make the best decision when it comes to taking the vaccine. And we promise not to be long-winded, Christine. So both of us have been practicing to keep our comments to a minimum, but of course we will entertain any questions. So this is the latest information. As of today, there are now a little over 40, actually almost 41,000 confirmed cases in the city of Detroit and 1,913 confirmed deaths. If you look at our percent positivity, about a couple of weeks ago, we were right around 3% for percent positivity, which looks at the percentage of people who've tested positive as compared to those who are testing in general. Now, in the last 30 days, something has happened. So we have increased more than quadrupled to 21%. So our numbers are headed in the wrong direction. We really feel as though people are experiencing pandemic fatigue. They're tired of wearing their mask. They're tired of social distancing. They're tired of washing their hands. But this is what we need to do because we're still in the middle of a pandemic, and I'm encouraging everyone not to let their guard down. Next slide. And so I mentioned that you should arm yourself with knowledge. And so here's one of the ways you can do that by going to our COVID-19 vaccine dashboard, which is located on our website at detroitmi.gov/health. So here you can see that we have vaccinated about 25% of Detroiters. We have a long way to go before we get to community immunity. Now, I use community immunity instead of herd immunity because I do not think that we are animals. And so I use community immunity, and that is my choice in terms of how we'd like to share how we are vaccinating folks. Our goal is 70% community immunity. And we're not there yet. We have a long way to go, but we are headed in the right direction. Hannah will talk to you about.
Denise,
yep.
we have folks translating, and you're giving really amazing information. Could you just slow down a little bit? We will make sure that we get everything in, but we want to make sure our translators can translate what you're saying because it's all incredibly important. And I love community immunity. It rhymes better than herd immunity.
Sure does. It's a little
very
rhyme.
good.
Yes.
Yeah,
So I'm going to turn it over to Hannah, but there are 3 vaccines, Pfizer, Mrna, and J&J. I know you've all heard about J&J, which is now taking a pause out of an abundance of caution, but hopefully we'll return back to J&J at some point soon, and we will keep you posted. So I'm going to turn it over to Hannah for the next few minutes, and she'll give a quick education lesson on the benefits of getting a COVID-19 vaccine.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Denise. So I am very excited to talk to you today about getting your vaccine and why it's so important. I know that knowledge is power, so we want to empower our community to learn about this vaccine and then share the information you get here with your community to encourage them to get vaccinated with you as well. So let's talk about the benefits of getting the COVID-19 vaccine. The first is that the COVID-19 vaccination will help keep you from getting COVID-19. The second is the vaccination is a safe way to help build protection. And the third is that the vaccination will be an important tool to help stop the pandemic. We say tool because we still need to continue to wear a mask, socially distance, and practice good hand hygiene to slow the spread of COVID-19. So what is the goal of a vaccine? The goal of a vaccine is to give long-lasting or lifelong protection against a disease. And vaccines do this by working with our immune system to stimulate an immune response. And vaccines are often administered for all 3 COVID vaccines via a needle injection, but you may have had your flu shot via nasal spray. So that's an option for the flu shot and other things. But for COVID, it's only through that needle injection. And there are different types of vaccines and they have different ways that they function, but they all work to have the same goal, which is to help the body become immune to a specific disease. And so let's talk a little bit about how these vaccines work at the molecular and scientific level. And I'm a biochemist and a nurse by training, so I love talking about this. The first is understanding what the components of a vaccine are and what they're targeting and what the end result is. So vaccines look to target what we call an antigen, and an antigen is a foreign substance on germs. The antigens cause the disease, and when there are antigens in the body, the immune system is triggered to have an immune response, resulting in the production of disease-specific antibodies. Now, what is an antibody? We've heard lots of people talking about getting your COVID-19 antibodies and having protection. Well, let's dive into that a little bit more. So antibodies are proteins created by the body. They attack or destroy bad organisms. In the case of COVID-19, they attack and destroy that COVID-19 pathogen, and they are specific to a disease. So unfortunately, if you had your chickenpox shot, you do have the great chickenpox antibodies, but they aren't specific to COVID-19. So our body needs to develop specific antibodies to the COVID-19 pathogen so that we're protected. And so how does our body do this? Well, the scientists have discovered that if we use the spike protein antigen, we can teach our body how to produce COVID-19 antibodies. So how does our body get that message of the spike protein antigen? Well, it uses a little tool called mRNA, or messenger ribonucleic acid, and say that 3 times fast. It's a tongue twister. But what mRNA vaccines are is they're the product of decades of study, and they've been used by researchers and scientists in things like cancer treatment and study of the Zika virus and developing a Zika virus vaccine. And mRNA is essentially a genetic code that tells cells how to make proteins like antibodies, and mRNA therapies are being used to develop personalized cancer treatments, as I mentioned before, so that we know that these products work and that we have a lot of information on how they work. And a question we get a lot as nurses at the health department is that, will mRNA affect my DNA? Well, mRNA is not DNA, and it does not have the ability to enter your DNA and alter your DNA. This is because where the mRNA is producing those antibodies in your cell happens in the cytoplasm, or the egg white of the cell. And all of your important genetic material, like your DNA, is housed in that yellow egg yolk. And with the COVID-19 vaccine, we're not scrambling any eggs. We're keeping that egg white and that egg yolk separate and having a sunny side up cell. So the mRNA does not impact your DNA. So let's talk a little bit about the side effects of these vaccines. We see pain at the injection site. Some people with the mRNA vaccines get a little bit of lymph node swelling, so they may feel a little bit of a lump under your arm that goes away within a couple days to weeks. You may feel a little bit fatigued or tired, have a headache, have muscle or joint pain, have chills, nausea, vomiting, or fever. For the viral vector, which is our Johnson & Johnson vaccine, we see a similar profile. People tend to get headaches, muscle and joint pain, and fever and chills. And why no one wants to have any of these side effects? They're actually signs and signals that the vaccines are working. So when I got my Pfizer vaccine back in December and my second dose in January, I was really happy when I got a little bit of a headache and a little bit of a fever, because I knew, hey, these vaccines are doing exactly what they're supposed to. I'm getting those great COVID-19 antibodies and getting safe protection from the virus. So there's a couple of reasons that these vaccines were developed so quickly, and I'm going to name a couple of them. So the first is modern science. Scientists have just learned so much about how science works. These vaccines were also a collaborative effort. So we saw some of the brightest minds from all over the world working together to solve a global pandemic problem. The studies had a lot of volunteers, so we got people from all over the world to participate. So we had a great database of how these vaccines worked on people from all over the world. There was a lot of previous research on COVID-19 and these vaccines developed, the vaccine development as well. So we had a previous similar virus called SARS-CoV-1 that scientists were able to build their knowledge when this new virus hit. We also had a lot of money and available funds going into it so that the scientists and researchers were able to take risks that they wouldn't normally, knowing that they could have their product ready to go to market when it got something called the Fda Emergency Use Authorization. And this is a tool that the FDA can use in case of emergency. It's really important to note, and this is a question I had myself, is that They don't skip any of the phases of the clinical trials. They're following the same safety precautions, and that they're also using an independent panel of experts to make sure that these vaccines are both safe and effective. And let's talk just a couple of myths that we've heard in our community is that the vaccine contains a microchip, and that is a myth. So what the vaccine actually contains is that little piece of the genetic blueprint that codes for the spike protein, some sugar, some salt, and a little bit of fat to help carry those pieces of information into your cells. The next myth is that the vaccine can give you COVID-19. We are never injecting live virus into your body when you're getting a vaccine. The only thing we're injecting is that little piece of that genetic blueprint that codes for the COVID-19 spike protein, which is not a live virus. And that the last myth I would like to talk about is that people who got COVID-19 will not benefit from the vaccine. And the CDC recommends that even if you've had COVID-19, after the 14th day that you're either symptom-free or you're tested positive, you should get vaccinated because it provides an additional level of protection. I myself had COVID-19 back in last March of 2020, and I made the decision to get my vaccine because I knew that my antibody levels were decreasing and that this vaccine provided really great, safe protection to make sure that I didn't get COVID-19 again. And I'm going to turn it back to Denise now to talk more about our efforts across the city.
Thank you, Hannah. So access is definitely not a problem in the city of Detroit. We have developed multiple ways that you can get a vaccine. We are primarily focusing on those who live or work in the city of Detroit, and those individuals who are over 16 years old. Next slide. So here's how to make an appointment with the Tcf Center or any one of our multiple sites. So whether you want to go to a community Saturday location at one of our churches or any of our schools or pop-ups, there's one number, which is 313-230-0505, and you will be given an appointment for 2 vaccines. So for Pfizer, you take the vaccine the first week and then you come back 3 weeks later, and for Mrna, you come back 4 weeks later. So all of that will be provided for you during that first phone call. And we do provide reminders and instructions sent via text or email. Next. So at the TCF Center, we have 2 options available, drive-through or walk-up appointments. Again, it's so simple. I think it's the most efficient way, the most efficient operation in the entire country. You're just in and out in about 45 minutes or less. Again, that number is 313-230-0505. And again, we're offering both Pfizer and Mrna to those who are 16 and up. Next. So we want to bring the vaccine in the neighborhood. So we have partnered with local churches. So on Saturdays from 9 until 1, there are 3 options here: Second Ebenezer, Fellowship Chapel, and Greater Grace. Again, Saturdays from 9 until 1. And then also at our Northwest Activities Center, that's every day from Monday through Friday from 9 until 1. We did offer just Johnson & Johnson, but now due to the pause, we quickly pivoted. And so we have both Pfizer and Mrna. Again, 16 years and older, those who live or work in the city of Detroit. So you can call now. Operators are standing by. 313-230-0505, Monday through Friday from 9 until 6. Next. You can skip this. So I mentioned about the in your neighborhood. So again, we're bringing the vaccine directly to Detroiters right in their neighborhood. And we partnered with DPSCD as well as the Islamic Center of Detroit. The reason why there are red lines through is because we've already visited these locations. So today we are at the Islamic Center of Detroit. And we are at, and I can't pronounce this, but we are at the Career Center, again, today from 8 until 5 p.m. And then tomorrow we're at East English Village. And it's actually going so well. We're going to have a few more sites next week. So next slide. So in summary, the COVID-19 vaccine is just another piece of the puzzle that'll help us get back to normal. We want to get back to church. We want to get back to backyard barbecues and hanging out with our friends and spending time with our grandchildren. But we can't do that unless everyone becomes a good citizen and does their duty by getting vaccinated. In addition to following the safety precautions, so face masks, washing your hands, and also social distancing. Next slide, we'll just kind of give you some resources. We are the health department, the Detroit Health Department, and we are your trusted source of information. So give us a call anytime, Monday through Friday, 8 until 8 at 313-876-4000 if you have questions. You can also email us. You can go to our website. And then I did want to have a selfish plug that tonight we are offering a webinar to anyone in the city of Detroit. We're focusing on Southwest Detroit, but it's tonight at 6 o'clock. You can tune in, go to our Facebook page. We'll have a whole hour dedicated to you to ask us questions, and we have a few medical doctors there. We had 2 town halls yesterday, had over 9,000 callers. So please tune in tonight. And so that concludes our presentation. Christine, we are more than welcome to answer any questions you or your listeners have.
Great. So I do have some questions from the listeners. Could Hannah or Denise, could you drop in the chat the information for the webinar tonight so that we can put it out there so that people can attend? So Denise, 2 questions. One about, you answered some questions about the walk-up, but there's, how do we ensure that folks that might not have an ID or that speak a language other than English go through the process of getting the vaccine smoothly? Have there been any adjustments to the current, what the system was before?
Absolutely, we are very much inclusive. So we have Spanish, Arabic, and Bengali translators. We have ASL interpreters as well. So when you make a phone call, whatever language that you speak, we are going to accommodate you. If you don't have an ID, that's okay. You bring in a bill, you bring in something that says that you live or work in the city of Detroit, and we will honor it.
Okay, so I'm just gonna repeat that for folks. So when you go to get your vaccine after the appointment is made, you just bring proof that you live or work in the city of Detroit. So it has to have a city of Detroit address on the bill with your name on it, or whatever documentation you bring. Is that correct?
That is correct. If you go to our website, detroitmi.gov/health, we have some examples, and we can put some down in the chat box. We have examples of different forms of ID or bills or something that just proves that you live or work in the city of Detroit.
Great. And then, so do you want to give any additional information about, and so this is a 2-part question, about the current spike? Why, how did we get here? What do you think is driving it? And also, why is it important that we continue, even if we have fatigue? Because I know I do. Even if we have pandemic fatigue, what are the things that we have to do to keep each other safe? And yeah, so what do you think is driving this spike? And why is it important that we continue to be vigilant?
So I think there are 3 things that are causing this spike. One, I've already mentioned, it's pandemic fatigue, because we are tired. And when we're tired, we just loosen up a little bit. We get comfortable. We start to have social gatherings and say, well, it's okay. Don't wear your mask. We're outside. That creates a problem, right? Because COVID spreads. And if you haven't got COVID yet, COVID is looking for you. And so we want to make sure that we protect ourselves by putting our mask on, separating ourselves from each other, washing our hands as much as we can. That's still really important to stay vigilant. So that's the first thing, pandemic fatigue. Second thing is the reduced restrictions. So if you recall, a couple of months ago, students were still at home. They did not have in-person learning. The restaurants were closed and it was cold outside. And so we're in the city of Michigan, we're in the city of Detroit, state of Michigan. It gets cold. And when it gets cold, we stay indoors. So now that the restrictions have been lifted, now that the restaurants are back open, some of the theaters and venues and these students are back in school and the weather is nice, we're outside. And that's where COVID loves to spread. So I think that's one of the reasons. And finally, we don't really talk much about this, but it's the variant. So in the city of Detroit, there's about 100 cases of the B.1.1.7 variant. And the variant, we know, and Hannah can speak to this, the variant is much stronger and it's spreading faster. And so I think those are the three reasons why. I also want to say too, when we look at the number of cases, we're averaging about 600 to 700 cases per day in the city of Detroit. 40% of those new cases are millennials, Gen Z, it's people under 40 years old. And we're the ones who are not getting vaccinated either. So we do have to do a good job of being vigilant and making sure that we're following the safety precautions. Why is this important? Because we're still in the middle of a pandemic. Nothing has changed at all. And in order for us to prevent a third or fourth or fifth surge from happening, we have to follow the rules. And I get it. I'm tired too. A lot of us are, but I'm all about saving lives. And so please be a good citizen, follow the rules, and hold yourself accountable as well as your family and friends.
Speaking of rules, Denise, are there any new orders from the health department that residents should be aware of or businesses should be aware of because of this surge?
No, we have not put out any new orders other than a Open Meetings Act, which is for public entities. We have extended the Open Meetings Act until May 31st, which essentially says if you are attending Zoom meetings or virtual meetings, you can keep having virtual meetings until the end of May 31st. And the reason why that's important is because it's really not safe to have indoor meetings that are greater than 25 people. So this Open Meeting Act just extends the opportunity for you to have virtual meetings. The other emergency orders are just through the governor's office. And so I encourage you to take a look at the state website.
Great. So these I think are going to be fast. Should you get tested for COVID before you get the vaccine?
I encourage, and I'll probably ask Hannah to answer this, but I encourage people to get tested if you feel as though you have been exposed or if you feel as though you have symptoms. That's the only time I believe you should get tested. Hannah, any thoughts?
That's my suggestion as well. There's no recommendation that you need to get tested before getting a vaccine. So come on in, give us a call and come get your vaccine.
Great. Okay. And then do you know when primary care providers will be able to give the vaccine? Because the community does not want to give out information that their primary care provider already has. Sorry, I'm trying to, yeah.
That's okay.
So,
no. Yeah, so they already are. Just check with your primary care provider. There are in the city of Detroit about 100, I think it's 118 COVID-19 providers. So these are providers that have signed up with the state to be able to administer the COVID-19 vaccination. These are hospitals, these are urgent cares, primary care providers, pharmacies. So definitely check with your primary care provider to see if they have signed up.
Okay, and then I think this speaks to so around this time, this is sinus infection time and flu time. In 2019, doctors would say it would be either a sinus infection or flu. Today in 2020 and 2021, that these things are COVID. What can you tell me? What can you tell me if they're telling me the truth? So it sounds like this person, their symptoms are similar, and so the doctors not know that before that COVID was here. So can you talk a little bit about what this person might be experiencing because of the similarity in symptoms?
So I'm going to ask our clinician to take that question.
Absolutely, that's a great question. And every time I start to sniffle, I say, is it COVID or is it just my allergies? Because I am deathly allergic to grass. And so the first thing is to get tested if you're concerned. If you've been exposed or you're experiencing signs of COVID-19, get tested, because there's no harm in getting tested. It's a peace of mind and it's a good data point so that you can use to advocate for your community. Say you test positive, you know, you can tell them, and then you can save lives that way. If you get tested and you're negative, that's a great peace of mind as well. I will also send over, we have a great sheet that is it COVID, is it the flu, is it allergies or something else? And that's a great resource that I myself use to give myself a peace of mind. So I'll share that document after this call.
That would be great, Hannah. I know that I've developed seasonal allergies, and in 2020 and 2021, you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, you know, I now have the vaccine, which has provided some comfort for me actually to not feel that way. We have come to the end of our time. There are many more questions, so we might be sending you questions, but we really appreciate you coming back on and sharing this really important information and the reminders that we still really need to be vigilant, and that if we want to get through this and get back to some sort of normalcy, that we absolutely have to do it together. I feel like this surge is that's the lesson to be learned. I feel like from this surge is that the only way out of this is together. So, so thank you both so much. Hopefully we can have you back.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
I am gonna, oh, there you go, Rajeshri. I was just gonna.
Just jumped right in there, yes. All right, thank you so much. That was super important and helpful information for all of us, and great reminders as well. Remember, we want to get to community immunity. That's our new catchphrase. We'd like to introduce our next guest to talk about education in schools. So if I can ask Michelle and Carrie, Michelle Few and Carrie Smith, both from the Detroit Leadership Academy, to turn on your mics and your cameras, join us. How you doing? It's great to see you. Before we begin, I just wanted to give an update. DPSCD is not with us today. They are on pause until April 26th. They had made that determination before spring break that they were going to take the 2 weeks after spring break off. So we look forward to them joining us again when they're back in session. So Carrie, Michelle, welcome. We're happy to have you today. Why don't we start with talk to us a little bit about what you're doing to keep your students safe during this time of surging numbers, uncertainty. And first, Michelle, maybe you can just tell us real quick what's happening at the school. I am assuming that you are all back in session.
We are in session in terms of we still offer virtual classes for our students. However, students who wanted to come back to the buildings and families, we allowed to come back to the building also.
Great. Okay, so you've got some students who chose to be there that are in school and others who were determined that they were going to stay virtual. Okay, so tell us a little bit about how, those students, especially that are in the building, what are you doing to keep them safe?
The first thing was when, you know, children are always our priority all the time. So, and then this is a tough time. And then how we can make this, through this tough time, through this pandemic, what can we do? Because we know, all of us know, I'm sure on here, that being out of school is not helping our children. But no one has to be in a pandemic also, so it's a real tough situation. So we always focus first on our children and things. When we knew kids coming back to the building, what can we do? First thing is always just being informed. I appreciated being on here and hearing some of the information from the previous guests and so forth. So as an organization, as a school, and as the school leader, we work hard at staying informed. We have a formed a safety and health committee that meets monthly and gives recommendations and updates from the CDC, Wayne County, the health department. We look at everything and data because at this point it's trial and error, right? There's no set formula for this. This is new and bringing kids back in. But we worked hard, you know, in surveying our parents and things. What would make the kids feel comfortable? What would make our parents feel comfortable? It's very important to have their perspective too. And so our safety and health committee gathers all that information, meets with the leaders. We meet with our leadership teams, and we kind of discuss and we were planning. And so from we've tried to implement everything from, we have touchless paper towel dispensers, stuff we didn't have before, right? We have touchless paper towel dispensers, things like that. We have touchless water fountains that kids don't have to touch. We have plastic shields up. We offer masks if they need masks. If we have sanitizer everywhere. We work with constantly reminding the students, because they miss each other. So a lot of times when they're when they're here, they want to hug, just reminding them in a gentle way. And I think that's very important, right? You can't just be abrasive and scary. Stop touching each other. They haven't seen each other in a year, some of them, and so forth. So in a gentle way, just reminding them, come on, guys, we got to stay safe. We promote that. A ton of things. Our custodian team is dynamic. They've been trained, they've been in special training. They get information from the Health and Safety Committee and so forth, and just constantly are cleaning. You will see them all the time, wiping down, cleaning behind, and so forth, very vigilant, and just making sure that we're safe on our not just I call them my babies. I'm sorry, guys. My babies are safe, but also our staff, that's important because they have to be well to teach the kids, right?
Absolutely. So I appreciate that you talked about the physical safety, and all the measures that you're taking, and you started touching a little bit on that emotional safety, right? Like they haven't seen each other, so we want to be sensitive to that. It's also a very scary time, and so Can you talk briefly, because we've only got a couple minutes left, and we do have some questions. A little brief summary of how you've managed the students and staff emotional health throughout this pandemic.
Yes. And so, like I said, we always focus on what's best for kids. This school, this organization, it's just not something we say, it's truly what we do, right? But we also focus on what's good for our staff, like you were saying. And so that's important because if your staff's not well, they can't do their best work to teach the children. And so they don't get what they need. So it was a real hard balance. And so when we planned out for the kids, we had started addressing, we knew the social emotional side and the trauma, because our kids already have trauma in their lives. And then when this pandemic it brought a whole nother level of trauma, right? For our students, they don't even get to interact with each other, which is very important for students for social emotional growth. And so we've started from day one. As we focus on academics, the social emotional piece was right up there with our academic focus because you had to have that. We knew we had to embrace our students, not just them. We do things for our family. So we worked hard. We have social workers, mentors. We have a school counselor, and those are kind of things that they have, but I feel like we go above and beyond. What separates, they make phone calls every week. We have assigned students from day one, cohorts of students to the mentors or the counselors to check in, do check-ins. We offer, we still try to have normalcy and celebration so kids could feel. We have PBIS celebrations. It was virtual, but we had to be creative, right? We still do things for our seniors, like they just had a pinning ceremony, and we're trying to have a level of normalcy where they can see their friends and interact, even if it was on the virtual setting. We also do one-on-ones. We set up one-on-ones when kids need one-on-ones. Just to talk to someone, because sometimes it looks different. You have to differentiate. We learned in this, it's not one fixed thing for every family and every kid. So we differentiate whatever their needs. I think the biggest thing that we do, we're accessible. at all times. We talk about all times. We have parents that text us, call us after hours on Saturdays, and we're going to answer and see what they need. We food, everything from technology, food, just to talk. That's what we do.
So we have a number of parents who are listening who may or may not be at your school, but I would love to hear your advice to them as we sort of close this out. What's your advice to them as we get into this testing season, and and what they can do to help their students be successful on testing at a time when there is a lot going on, as it is, distractions are tough. There's a lot of distractions now. So quickly, if you can just share with us some advice for parents on a whole of how they can help their students be successful.
And so we've been testing all week. We tested today our 10th graders and so forth. The one thing that we as an organization just want our parents to know, and this is why we've encouraged our parents, we highly recommend, but we don't force or make a family feel guilty if the student does not show up. We try to accommodate. If you're not comfortable now, we allow our parents to know these are the things we put in place. We had under 10 kids would be in a room, 6 feet apart, shields up, mask on. The process when they came in, only 5 kids came in, checked in at a time, put their cell phones in bags and so forth. So things like that. For parents who are uncomfortable, I truly believe, and we truly believe, it is a personal choice. But it is important for our kids, right? They've been out, a lot of them in a virtual setting, so they can to take these tests so they can have some type of diagnostics to know where they are, get familiar back. We've lost that, and especially our children trying to go to college, right? It's important to take the SAT, but it's important to also respect our parents' decision. And so we had some families that were comfortable coming now. We said, that's no problem. We made phone calls to every single family to see if they were comfortable. What could we do to make them comfortable to come in our building and test, for their children to come? And also, if you don't want to come now, we can do it on the makeup day. Is that better for you? There'll be less kids. So we try to just accommodate our family and ensure them that we're going to do everything possible. We strategically plan to make sure that the kids are safe, the staff is safe, and they can come and test and not have high anxiety. And the same, I had parents walk kids to the door. Miss View, how many kids are in the classroom? That was very important, right? But it took a lot of staff. It takes a lot of staff. We would never have, in this time for us, put 50 kids in a cafeteria. It's just not comfortable for our students, right? And try to provide the best testing environment, following the safety calls, and encouraging our parents. The phone calls were key. We called every single parent. We had a call team. Is your kid coming? Can we help you? Do you have any concerns? And that set the tone.
Thank you so much. That's really helpful. Really important messages there for parents in terms of being in communication with your school. Schools are doing everything possible to ensure that kids are safe, and that ensuring, I think the point about the makeup testing, particularly for our high school students, for whom the SAT is a, part of the path to going to college, that if you're not able to take it now, it is super important to find a way to take it on the makeup date, because that's one of the benefits actually of being in school in Michigan, is that every student gets an opportunity to take that test without having to pay for it. And that's something that's a commitment to college access. So we want to make sure that, that parents also understand that is available to them. We really appreciate your both being here. Thank you so much. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much.
Stay safe. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right. So moving from schools to our medical experts. So if I can invite Dr. Cunningham and Dr. Chopra to please turn on your mics and your cameras. Welcome. I'd like to welcome Dr. Dennis Cunningham and Dr. Tina Chopra. Dr. Chopra is an infectious disease specialist, a professor of internal medicine and infectious disease at Wayne State School of Medicine, as well as a corporate medical director of infection prevention at the DMC. Dr. Cunningham is also the assistant medical director of infection prevention at Henry Ford, and also serves as a highly regarded pediatrician. So we are very lucky to have two people from two different systems who are essentially leading their system's response to COVID. We feel extremely fortunate to have you here and have you here together. So thank you so much for making time in your undoubtedly busy schedules to be here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, okay, so we've got to start. First and foremost, what is going on in Michigan? Why are we getting worse? What is going on?
I think there's a few reasons. I'm seeing a lot of fatigue against wearing a mask and social distancing. When I've gone out, I'm noticing more people are trying to go into the grocery stores without wearing the masks. As restaurants reopened, that was part of it. But the biggest culprit probably was resumption of school athletics. There were literally hundreds of outbreaks associated with school athletic events. And each of those outbreaks was associated with hundreds of cases. I think that's really why this has gotten a lot worse. And the spring break travel certainly doesn't help either.
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Cunningham. In addition, I would say we gave the variant a chance to spread while the vaccinations were still ramping up. You know, the variant quickly spread through these school athletics and schools and through restaurants and dining, in-room dining, and then the spring break surges. So I think all of those factors together is accounting for this huge surge that we are seeing in Michigan.
It seems like kind of a perfect storm, right? We released restrictions in the middle of vaccinations while a variant was growing in numbers, and then also had, you know, these large scale events, but put people in contact with each other in close contact. And it just sort of seems like it all, you know, it's the perfect storm for something like what we're facing. Both of you being in two different hospital situations, can you talk a little bit about what's happening at the hospitals, not just with respect to COVID patients, but just in general? How has this surge impacted the operations at your hospitals, and what can we expect moving forward?
We certainly have a lot of our beds filled. Our intensive care units are quite busy. We're still able to do our normal operations for the most part. The biggest thing I think is just staff are tired. That's probably, if for no other reason, please wear your mask so we have less disease, because this has been really a tough year for healthcare, and it doesn't look like it's going to get better in the near future.
Dr. Chopra, is that what you're seeing also at DMC?
Yeah, I mean, we are seeing definitely a younger population this time. We are seeing less severe patients than last surge, but we are seeing some patients that are very severe and are in the ICU. And I think, like Dr. Cunningham mentioned, it's very important for the community to understand that there will always be breakthroughs even after you have been vaccinated, and the masking cannot stop. Even after you're vaccinated, you have to keep masking.
Yeah, very important. You mentioned that you're seeing younger patients. Can you talk a little bit about why you think that's the case?
Well, when you look at the older adults in the state, 65 years of age and older, I think 70% of them received the vaccination. Out of every group, they have embraced the vaccines the most. And I do think a lot of it's because of the vaccine. I think as a group, they've been better with social distancing and mask wearing. It's younger people who often feel indestructible. Like, I'm only 20, I'm only 30, I'm in my early 40s, I'm not going to get sick. Well, yeah, you will.
Yeah, that sounds about right? If that, 70% of that elderly population has been vaccinated, that's a large number, and so that makes sense that it's the others that have not been, and the other behavior pieces actually fit in as well. We're shifting a little bit to the vaccines. Obviously, we've had some things happen with the Johnson & Johnsons, and both of you have been on in the past and talked about it. Could you talk, Dr. Chopra, maybe you can share a little bit about what does this Johnson & Johnson pause actually mean? Why did they pause? Is this something we should have expected? Is it cause for concern or alarm? Give us a little bit of information about that.
Yeah, so this is only a pause, and it's actually a very good thing. That means that we are very mindful and aware of all the safety surveillance that is being done for vaccination. They found that young women only 6 young women between 18 and 49 years of age were more likely to get clots after getting the J&J vaccine, and hence, out of concern and out of caution, FDA has put a pause on it. And that doesn't mean that this is a permanent pause. It's a temporary pause to watch for any other cases. And I think that this is part of the whole process of, a new vaccine campaign that we are doing, and part of the process of surveillance for any, vaccine side effects. So if at all, it is a good thing, and the vaccine is still very safe. It's a very, very tiny, small percentage of patients that got this clotting side effect, and I think that soon the pause is going to be lifted.
So when you say a very small percentage, it's in the single digits, right? Out of the millions? I mean, do you know the stat on that?
Absolutely. It is very tiny as compared to millions of people who've been vaccinated. And, we are going to hear about more cases because more people are getting vaccinated. So I think that it's extremely important to realize that the FDA and the CDC are doing this out of caution.
You're talking 7 patients out of 6.8 million. So the chance of getting one of these rare clots, 1 in a million, chance of dying from it, 1 in 7 million. To put that in perspective, all of us have a 1 in 1,000 chance of being in a motor vehicle accident just going to the grocery store.
Yeah, that's helpful. That's helpful to understand. And I think that the point about the pause actually being a good thing in terms of monitoring how vaccines are impacting as they get into the larger population should give the rest of us confidence. How do we help people continue to have trust in vaccinations? Because as you know, and we've talked about with both of you, Dr. Cunningham, you shared about this. Maybe you can add a little bit here. What do you say to folks who are still on the fence, especially in light of this recent, J&J development?
Well, you look at how many people are in the hospitals right now. I can tell you at Henry Ford, we have over 460 patients admitted to the hospital with COVID across our system, some of them in the ICU, versus a very, very rare uncommon complication. And that complication has not been seen with the Mrna or Pfizer vaccines. If we want to get this virus under control and start getting back to life as we knew it before COVID, people need to get the vaccine.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's talk a little bit about spread. I mean, you talked about the use, the sources of it, but how is it actually spreading? In other words, how are people contracting it? The caveat to that question is, what can we do as private citizens to sort of help us to not contract and spread it?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the large droplets being primarily the cause of how people become infected. We either cough or sneeze, and then other people breathe it in. And was it a couple of weeks ago when I did it with some children on this, and I used the mask, I called it the Snot Blocker, because it really is the barrier between anything coming out of an infected person and someone else breathing it in.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the fact that, again, emphasizing the fact that even if you are with somebody who's vaccinated, you have to wear your mask. Majority of the patients we are currently seeing in the hospitals are either unvaccinated or they've received 1 dose of vaccine and they've left their guard down. So remember that, outdoor meeting somebody outdoor is much better than indoor because of ventilation, poor ventilation indoors. Again, the weather is so good and you get to have some fresh air as well. So you want to resort to more outdoors than indoors.
So Dr. Roper, if you can also go the vaccinated piece, that's my next sort of thing. What can vaccinated people do right now? What should vaccinated people not do? If you're vaccinated, you still wear a mask. Can we still get COVID? Tell us a little bit about how to behave as vaccinated folks.
Sure. I think we've talked about the breakthrough cases, even if you are vaccinated. I mean, it's 95% effective, not 100%. So there's a 5% chance you can still get COVID. So, you can meet in safe settings with other vaccinated individuals, but I would still mask while we are meeting, and I would prefer outdoor meetings as compared to indoor meetings. And even if you are vaccinated, I would still mask and go out, whether you're going to do groceries or you're traveling on a plane, I would still mask during that time. And I would avoid travel when it's not necessary, like, traveling to Florida, for example, is not something I would recommend somebody, given the fact that we are in such a huge surge with the variant.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, vaccinated people meet outside and wear masks even outside. Okay, that's great. Dr. Cunningham, anything to add to that?
I'm vaccinated. I wear my mask when I go out. I think if you're in a very small cohort with other people vaccinated, CDC says less than 3 household contacts, that you could take off the mask, but it's so easy to wear it. Why not? And I'm choosing to do that.
Okay. And then Dr. Cunningham, when are youth going to be eligible for vaccines? Can you give us an update on what's happening with
When
that?
children will be eligible?
Yeah, children. When?
Sure. So Pfizer, who makes one of the vaccines, just submitted data to the FDA this month asking that the vaccine be approved for use in children 12 years of age and under. I would expect by mid-May we can go down to that age. There's other studies in even younger children, and before school starts, I bet you're going to see it. Even lower ages can get it.
That's really exciting, especially as schools are sort of trying to plan for next year, and the uncertainty abounds. If we know that that's something that's on the way, that's certainly something that can help. The other, sort of as we close out our section here before we ask for questions, I'd just love to hear from both of you, from each of you, I should say. What do you want people to know right now, and how can they protect themselves?
I would say COVID's going to be here a while. We're going to have to start thinking about it like influenza, where it's going to be here every year. There'll be different surges. The vaccines are a key piece, but these masks are pretty effective too. And one of the advantages to masks, we didn't really see much influenza this past year in the state. We're not seeing a lot of common colds or other minor illnesses. So the masks certainly work.
Yeah, I agree. I would also like to tell others that this new variant, the UK B117, is more contagious and is highly virulent, and should be treated as a new outbreak, a totally different outbreak, because it's replaced the historical variant. So I would really caution everybody to keep masking and understanding that vaccination is only one tool in your toolbox, in addition to social distancing and masking.
Great. Thank you so much, both of you. Christine, I know we've got questions, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, but thank you to both of you doctors for joining us again this week.
I actually popped on to wrap us up, but what I do want to say to both doctors is thank you both for your honesty, and also if you could pass on to the folks that you work with, we are deeply appreciative of what healthcare providers have done in the last year. And I just listening to the news around hospital beds being full, I can only imagine what that means for the nurses and the doctors and the staff, all the staff of the hospital, and how hard this must be, particularly because we know when we social distance and mask, we can stop the transfer. So I want to thank you both for taking your time. We really appreciate it. And we will definitely invite you all back again. And thank you for all the great information about why Michigan is seeing the surge that it's seeing right now. So as we wrap up today, we have a few announcements. Wayne County will be accepting walk-up vaccinations at Wayne County Community College Downriver campus this Saturday, so April 17th, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. This is for folks 16 and up. 16 to 18-year-olds need to have a parent or guardian with them. So 16 and older, but 16 to 18, y'all need your guardian or parent with you. The city has many options to get the vaccine. Please visit the city website, and we're going to drop that into the chat. But that's the health department's website. You've seen it a couple of different times today. And then the Coronavirus Community Care Network is operating a COVID-19 testing site at the Joseph Walker William Community Center. That is a mouthful. The Joseph Walker William Community Center. The community center is located at 8431 Rosa Parks Boulevard. Testing will be open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can call 313-230-0505 to book your appointment. And so the spread is happening. So if you have cold-like symptoms, go and get tested. And if you can get the vaccine, please go get the vaccine. We've also are dropping a link for testing sites across the state. So that link is going into the chat right now. So we want to thank all of our panelists. We want to thank you for joining us. This town hall is truly a group effort. So before we go, I'd love for everybody to turn on their cameras. And I can see Rajesh, so I'm waiting for hers to go on. There we go. And we want to remind everyone, particularly in this time, but always, stay healthy, stay powerful, and stay strong. Wear your mask and stay 6 feet away from each other. Rita, if you're still on, can you say that in Spanish?
Manténgase saludable, manténgase fuerte y sigan utilizando sus cubrebocas y usando el distanciamiento social.
Thanks, Rita. Y'all have a good day.